There are people who are giving me information and they're telling me who you are, and I would encourage you to stop it, okay? I'll just tell you that it's being watched. The point of the phone call is stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing.
Are you fucking retarded or something?
Look out for Charlie.
I'm going to cover some more anomalies, and I'm going to address some things from my last video. We had some comments made, and I want to talk about this because it's kind of important. After I showed the melted cars, some people came and made some comments, and one of them was, the older model cars were just built different. Really. And of course, it's somebody who looks like they have a little suit on. Of course, I would expect that comment from somebody like this. If you are real, you don't know what you're talking about. And another one says, I agree with you, but you are overlooking the fact that new cars, engines, and rims are aluminum. All the old cars you showed were steel. Well, that's not true either. You said I overlooked that. I've told you guys in the past, if you lie or misrepresent something, I'm going to remove the comment, period. It's just the way it is. Because I did talk about it. I said this, and if you look closely, those are aluminum wheels, and they are not melted. In fact, you are not going to show me where any type of metal, aluminum, steel, anything melted in 1991. Now, you're trying to say that cars were just built different. Let's talk about this. I'm not overlooking anything, because it is not a fact that cars from the 1991 era only had steel heads, blocks, and steel rims. I even pointed out in the video that many of the photos that I have are aluminum wheels. Many car makers had aluminum wheels way before 1991. Many. Honda, Toyota, Nissan, Ford, GM, and many others. Some of the cars that you are seeing in the California fire photos from 1991 are much older because they survived longer there. Not being in the Rust Belt and surviving much longer in a place like California than they would anywhere else in the country, like Ohio or Indiana, where they would be rusted out pieces of shit by then. You know, I have hundreds of photos from 1991. Probably 150 or more vehicle photos. I only showed the first 10 in that folder. Probably the first 10 or so. And now onto the heads and the blocks that you're talking about. The idea that cars didn't have aluminum heads in 1991 is ridiculous. My neighbor worked for Ford, and he had an old 1982 Ford Escort wagon in his garage that he kept in immaculate shape for many, many years. And guess what? It had an aluminum head, and it was a 1982. It was totally common, not at all rare. Not at all. So I decided to look it up. I asked Gulag, when did car makers start using aluminum wheels? And they said that car manufacturers started using aluminum wheels regularly in the 1980s. However, the use of aluminum wheels in cars date back to the 1920s, which is absolutely true. That is true. I will give Gulag the credit for that. Now I asked, when did car makers start using aluminum heads regularly? And Gulag said that car manufacturers began using aluminum heads in the late 60s and the early 1970s, with a significant increase in adoption throughout the 80s and 90s, which is absolutely true. By early 1980s, most cars had aluminum heads, at least, if not aluminum blocks too. Very rare. The Toyota Celica had a cast iron block and an aluminum head, and that was a rare car to have a cast iron block. Rare. But I'm going to prove this to you. I'm going to show what was going on in California in 1991. To prove my point, this is an excellent video from 1991. And it shows all the cars that were on the road then. You know, these people are saying, well, there just weren't aluminum cars. They were built different back then. No, they were not. They were not. I'm going to show you this video. Let's go through it quickly. Okay. There's a car, aluminum wheels, aluminum head, probably aluminum block. There's older cars that survive longer in California. Fire was just as bad. It was considered a firestorm. There's a car back there in the distance that has aluminum wheels, an aluminum head, and aluminum block. More older cars, aluminum wheels, aluminum head, more cars with aluminum wheels that certainly have at least aluminum heads. The idea is ridiculous. There's another car, aluminum wheels, aluminum head. That one has an aluminum block. There's another one that has aluminum wheels, aluminum head, and probably an aluminum block. It's ridiculous. I could keep going and going. I'll show a few more seconds of this. Aluminum wheels, aluminum head, aluminum block. Aluminum wheels, aluminum head, probably an aluminum block. These people don't know what they're talking about. That car right there, that's a Honda Prelude. That has aluminum wheels, an aluminum head, and aluminum block. There's another one. Aluminum wheels, aluminum head, aluminum block. I could keep going and going and going. I don't need to. You get the point. You know, California was a huge import state back then. I have an absurd amount of data and footage from these 1991 fires. And if you're going to tell me that nothing has changed, you know, with these fires, it's your job to go out there and sift through all this information, all the photos, the videos, and the stories, and find me one case of an aluminum head, an aluminum block, or an aluminum set of wheels, which there were many of, that melted in 1991, and you are not going to find it. And again, the idea that aluminum heads or wheels weren't used by 1991 is absurd. And the idea is that cars changed between 1991 and the 2000s is also absurd. Do you know what changed in a Honda Civic between 1991 and 2005? Nothing, really. It changed from OBD1 to OBD2, and that's about it. The body panels and the build of the car changed shape, barely. Nothing else changed. The idea is absurd, and the idea that somebody would come along with a photo with a little suit on and try to tell me that is also absurd. You know, I don't even like people making the claims that these aren't natural without some examples, some science, or some proof. In this case, I'm using what they called a firestorm from 1991, the same type of fire, for proof and reference. You have to show people the past these days in order to force them to connect the dots. And besides all this, how many people out there have taken a small torch to steel or aluminum? I have, many, many times. And how many people out there have tried to weld with aluminum? If you don't have the right type of gas, it won't melt or even get soft. You know, these arguments are coming from a totally theoretical standpoint, and a standpoint that isn't based in reality. I don't hear anyone with hands-on experience with this type of stuff saying anything. No one. Just somebody coming along making a statement. So, here is your homework. It's important. Have a backyard campfire. Take some aluminum cans back there with you and add them to the fire. Those thin, cheaply made aluminum cans. Soda cans, pop cans, beer cans, whatever was in them. And I can bet you that in the morning, all those cans will still be sitting there, blackened in the fire pit. Try it. And see how much fire it takes to melt an aluminum can, a thin aluminum can. You'll learn a lot about metallurgy from that simple experiment, right? You will. And it seems like people are trying to take realities that people like myself learned when we were 6 years old and turn them on their head. Stop it, stop it, stop it. You can go through all the footage from 1991, anything that you can find, with all those aluminum wheels that were out there and all those aluminum heads, aluminum blocks, because there I just showed you video proof, and you will not find one melted car. Fuck off. And here is an example of what happens in these quote-unquote new normal fires. So it's melted like candle wax. Aluminum. And people are just trying to tell you that that didn't happen in the past because cars were built different. They were not built different. By 1991, it was normal for many, many cars to have aluminum heads, aluminum wheels, all of that I just showed you.
So this was part of the car. Turned into liquid.
Turned into liquid. Liquid. If you know anything about metallurgy, how hard it is to even weld without the right gear, this is crazy. And you have people at home in our modern era building this stuff. Check this out. I find it funny because somebody is just scrubbing pans in the background. That looks like a phone sticking out of the cardboard. scrubbing that pan. You know, but this is just some DIY home rig, you know? Sitting at home, making shit like this, and people think that they wouldn't do this. It's just a funny example of how easy it is to build technology like this. And it appears that someone caught another one of these black balls flying through the fire area. Check this out. That's it. That is very, very similar to what people catch. Very interesting. I'd like to see the original video of this so that I can slow it down myself, but it's pretty cool to see. Now, again, all of this is going to be blamed on homeless people, on Democrats, on Republicans. Really crazy shit. This interesting creature, this propaganda agent, puts out a whatever that basically says, heart breaks for this neighborhood, fuck Trump. Right? Like, what? What are you talking about? You know, and you have other people saying that the Democrats are doing it. The Democrats are doing it all. Then these other people are saying that it's homeless people. Homeless people are starting these fires. It's absurd. No homeless person or some illegal immigrant is starting a fire that is melting cars. Now, I want to show you something else that some people are aware of out there, but I find it very strange. And this coincides with all these people that are out there in droves telling you that cars are just built differently, which they're not, or that it's the Republicans or the Democrats that are responsible for this, or that it's illegals or homeless people are doing this. You know, it's crazy. Let's check this out real quick. This was on NBC News. Keep them quiet because it really doesn't matter what they say. Now look at, this guy's reporting. Let me move this over here. Okay, look, this car is completely burned out. The house is destroyed. There is nothing left of this house. But, you know, cars are just built different. But look at this trash can right here. This rubber plastic trash can has survived. And this happens all the time in these fires, over and over. Why? So aluminum on these cars is just melting. You know, everything's blowing out. It looks insane. The engine block, the hood is gone. But trash can is sitting right there. You know, and these people will not attempt to explain that one away. They'll just ignore it. Here is a closer version. You can see the trash can right there. Survived. It's not melted. It's not even deformed, right? But the car is burned completely out. Completely. That doesn't make any sense to anybody. Look at the fence. Look at it. It is charred, melted. You know, this is probably some type of vinyl even. And this trash can totally, completely survived. Very, very weird, right? And I'll report on more of this as I see it because, you know, it is just bizarre and it defies things that we have learned since we were 6 years old.
We are one when my boot comes down on your neck. We are one. That's right. Piano solo. Do you feel it? I feel it. It's got me by the feels. So bad